these amateur ranks, someone's like, oh, remember when I came from last to first? And I'm like, no, that's not actually the way it happened, Like, in amateur racing, the tails get a little tall at times.
Another full gate start with a pile up in the first turn.
Yeah, it does happen. 201 is off to the whole shot. Go
ahead. Cash and Cross, he actually took the win in the qualifier in that one on the KPS suspension-backed ride. He's on a Kawasaki. He's out of Hazlet, New Jersey, grabbing the early lead in this one.
Oh, Hazlet, New Jersey. I've done plenty of time there. I got a whole bunch of relatives from Hazlet right there on the boardwalk. What was impressive about Cross, he was racing earlier. He crashed twice and still ended up finishing third. It was the same corner that got him 2 times. So now that he's out front, see if he can manage it and bring this championship home.
Well, Rogers, he had to worry about in the qualifier was James Runyon out of Ottawa, Tennessee. He finished second. The 87 Slash. Dalton Heltz out of La Place, Louisiana was third. We had the 832 Edward Lee out of West Palm Beach in fourth. Matthew Fry, the 52 out of, looks like out of Canada there. Quite possibly rounded out the top 5 in this 250C limited class, and they qualified. Second in here at the end of lap number 1, it's Cash and Cross with Edward Lee in the number 2 spot. Dalton Heltz in the actually it's Lee in second and Heltz in third. Sawyer Shoemaker, the 319 in fourth. Cale Thorpe in fifth, and Damon Nadrasic is your 6th place ride. Isaiah Schutz in 7th. 8th place Madison Booth. Ryan Fleming in 9th, and Billy Andrews rounds out your top 10 there at the end of that first lap. And honestly, there's quite a bit of changes from, at least on this opening lap, to what we saw in the top 10 finish. I think a few names definitely in there, but they're mixed up. This ought to be interesting to see how this one sorts out. We'll probably see some good passing and some good action in this 250C class.
So right now, Cash and Cross and Edward Lee and Dalton Heltz, you were saying there, Rodney. So this is cool when you get those full gates, as you mentioned there, Jeff. This race wasn't around for a long time. You raced it as a kid. It took a while to really catch the momentum. I'd say 6-7 years ago, you started to see the big names. And that's really the key. You want to chase certain guys. I don't know if guys were chasing you or you were chasing others. Back then, you didn't have the internet to know who was going where. But I know you probably wanted to go where the faster kids were.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best, you got to go race against the best. You can't just be home practicing by yourself and think you're going to get anywhere. And that's what my dad and I did early or late in my amateur career, as we went to all the pro nationals and raced all the amateur stuff.
Really?
For one, you see the track.
Yep.
You see the track, so you know what you're getting involved in, down the road. And there's usually all the fastest amateurs at those events. So if you want to race them, you got to be there with them.
Did it end up being a lot of the guys that you raced as a pro, or does it all work out differently? Like guys you battled as amateurs, did they end up being rivals as a pro, or did it all work out differently?
No, not really. So the guys I battled with in Michigan, they were mostly East Coast 125 guys, and they were, the Todd DeHoops. Todd's going to be here tomorrow, doing the vintage thing with us. There was a lot of local Michigan guys. Tommy Watts, does that name ring a bell?
He's Michigan? Or is that a guy you battled?
That's a guy I battled with
him,
late in my amateur career, and he did a couple of years on the big bikes there. And so not a lot of them made it to that elite level. But it's funny, we talked about it last night at dinner. I had a lot of great battles with Damon Bradshaw, and Damon Bradshaw and myself came up through the ranks on Yamahas through our amateur support. He was on a mini bike.
Oh, but you knew each other from that.
Oh, we were best buddies, yeah.
Really? I never knew this.
Oh, yeah, I was on a 250, and he was on a mini bike, and so we were best buddies growing up. And then, he made it quickly into the 125 East Coast, and then into the Supercross class, and had many great battles with him.
Right.
But it's funny how it plays out.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with Damon a lot. He was in Atlanta there 2 weeks ago, and one of the things he was telling me that he's most shocked at with today's riding, he's like, I would ride, but then I would go play ride. It's like I could never ride the same Supercross track 3 days a week for 4 or 5 months. I don't know how these guys do it. And we're telling them, we're like, dude, there is no play riding going on here. If you are riding, you're on a stopwatch.
Yeah.
Alvin Baker is not letting his guys go do whips in the hills. Damon could not wrap his head around that. I don't know how it worked for you. I don't know how you feel about that, but it was shocking to hear that from him.
I did a lot of motos. I did a lot of laps.
Yeah.
I had to do that mentally, so I knew that I was ready.
Okay.
If I did all my motos and all my laps and did all my training, I was on the start line Saturday night knowing that I was ready. I couldn't just go play ride a little bit and ride one moto a day, and so
So that was what worked for him.
That's what worked for him.
Right.
And so then we look back at it. I love Damon, but did it really work for him?
Hey, I mean, you're a 6-time, bro.
No, well, hey, Dave, I get along great with him, but
but you know, and that's a very good point, because obviously he got distracted by something, you know, and it wasn't. I think a lot of it, you're right, could be where he wasn't focused nearly as much as what you were.
Yeah, and going back to what these guys do now, everything's on a stopwatch. I mean, you just follow social media, you'll see that all the KTM guys, they're at Baker Factory, just bam, 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 stopwatch, 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 and so it's managing that. How do we do that and keep that intensity throughout the Supercross season and the outdoor season, and not stay healthy, and stay healthy, and not get sick and wore out. Yep. Whether you want to hear it or not, Ken may be in that position. Wore himself out too thin years ago, and it's kind of still
and never quite got
still lingering.
Yeah.
Still lingering. Whether you want to hear it or not, Saturday night, maybe that was a situation. It wasn't hot, but we continue to hear that he's kind of top secret with everything, but. Maybe he wore himself out so thin years ago that it's not going to recover.
Yeah, they don't want to. Well, as you said, when you're out of the track and you want to know the other guy's suffering as bad as you, so the riders don't want to let everybody advertise.
Right.
Hey, by the way, I'm about to get tired with 5 minutes to go.
Right.
So we'll never know for sure.
Yeah. So it's where I'm going with that is it's managing that consistent. I mean, every day is like a race. It's lap times, but you can only do that so many days. Months, years throughout your career, and still be able to keep that level and the intensity.
Yeah, I think that's why we hear a lot about the Epstein Barr situation with a lot of folks. Overtraining, you have that a lot. Yeah.
I'm going to throw out Cash and Cross. He's held it on this time. No problems with the crashes like he had earlier today. Still leading. Dalton Held second. No real changes in the order. Edward Lee, James Runyon, Sawyer Shoemaker fifth. Damon Vindrousek sixth. Madison Booth seventh. Chase Patton, Ryan Fleming, and Seth Whitton. That's your top 10. But there it is. Cash and Cross.